is indeed the long weekend, and in fact, I hope you're still in bed right now. Today is family day, and for many of us, it's a little bit of a hangover from complete chocolate overload and maybe a little other things along the way. But the public holidays haven't stopped the flow of news, and our news editor, Roy Simpson, is back with us to take us behind the headlines. And as always, we'd love to have you join in on that discussion. In fact, it's the most important part, so please share your thoughts, your opinions, your insights on 063 408 8863. Help us decode these crazy headlines. Like, for instance, a press conference on Good Friday.
On Good Friday.
Must mean something massive is going to happen. And then what happened? Did anything actually happen?
Well, in a way, bad things happened. Yeah, we got the notification as a country that the Gupta brothers, are not going to be extradited from the United Arab Emirates. And we kind of thought that was a done deal.
Yeah.
Because we'd specially set up an extradition treaty with them in some haste some time back. And man, apparently this happened all the way back on February the 13th, that they had their extradition hearing. We don't know when the ruling was made, because sort of diplomatic channels haven't been communicating what's been happening in the UAE to our own Department of, it's not Foreign Affairs, it's International Relations. So Durko wasn't informed of these things until Thursday. That's why the press conference on Friday, they were just told on Thursday, oh, BT Dubs, you're not getting those guys.
Do we know what went wrong or what could have gone wrong? What's the presiding opinion now?
Well, the justification, at least what Durko is saying, although apparently this isn't reflected in the UAE's own judicial statement on this, we're told that the ruling was that the money laundering charges that they face, they can be prosecuted for those in the United Arab Emirates, and therefore there's no need to extradite them. So that's the logic we've been given.
Great, then follow through. But does that imply that they will follow through with the case against them in the UAE, or are we just... Watch the hand, watch the hand, watch the hand.
No, it's very much that. In fact,
oh, goodness.
Part of why Durko was asking what was going on and pushing for information is that, once again, newspaper reports have been coming out saying they've been spotted in Switzerland, shopping around in, Bern, places like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, also that we believe that they've applied for positions, citizenship in Cameroon and places like that. So this is why we were asking the questions, because they've been seen outside of the UAE. And I'm afraid it's not looking good for extradition.
Well, what's the next step? From a South African perspective, I mean, surely we've got enough legal grounds to push this as far as we can. Is there or do we just have to wait for the international community to decide that it's time for them to be punished?
No, well, yes, it becomes an international issue. But the strength of those extradition treaties is important. So, for example, Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandi getting caught in Tanzania, we're pretty certain they're going to be extradited here. With the United Arab Emirates, it's not a democracy. So our expectations of a judicial process are wrong.
Yeah, we need to move the goalposts.
Yes, that setup is different.
Okay.
And we can ask again, we can appeal that decision, but we believe that the Guptas are no longer there, but we can appeal the decision, and we can go to Interpol and ask for another red notice, in which case they would theoretically be arrested somewhere else.
Again,
but yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment, and I don't know what it says diplomatically about our relationship with the UAE, in as much as we weren't even informed about this.
By some margin as well, and quite a serious case for, if you think about the South African story at the moment, it's pretty well known that this is a kind of a watershed moment for us. What do you discern out of that? How do you feel about the Guptas? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. 063 408 8863. Now, I thought the whole plan was for us to be able to generate electricity and sell it back to the municipality, but I think I'm absolutely wrong. We'll find out more about that in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. We are back with our look at the major news stories and how they affect us with our news editor, Roy Simpson. And he, yes, helps us decode, but we need your input as well. So join in on the discussion and share your thoughts. WhatsApp line is open, 063 408 8863. Now, like everyone in Mzansi, our focus during this time is often on electrical issues. And Eskom is in a court battle right now to try to stop a private company from supplying electricity to the municipality. Also, it seems there is something, surely there has to be something else at play here, because I thought that was the plan, was to help boost Eskom's potential, not usurp them at a municipal level.
Absolutely. A very interesting story. And I think quite an important one. I think the court case might actually be seminal and set precedent.
It's a bit of a watershed,
really important. So we're in the Free State.
Okay.
We're in around the town of Frankfurt. We're in a municipality called the Mafube municipality.
Hi from Mafube, if anyone's watching this morning.
And obviously, like the rest of the nation, they have had electricity issues ongoing for a long time. They solved theirs. This private company stepped up and said, look, we've got the funds to build this solar farm. And it's a reasonably decent-sized solar farm. They're producing a fair amount of electricity on it. But what they are there for is to step in when the national grid won't supply power to this town. And they signed a 25-year deal with the municipality. But where it starts getting complicated and where we start getting into the issues of the court case is that it's called downstream from Eskom.
Which makes sense,
So Eskom has control over here, the municipality is over here, and they're situated here. So what's in fact happened is they've taken over control.
The switch has moved.
The switch has moved. They've literally, with Eskom's no permission and all, they control when load shedding happens, rather than Eskom setting the agenda. And now there's a fight because Eskom is saying to them that that's not acceptable, that they can't control the grid. They can supply power.
To it, but Eskom still must retain
But Eskom wants to, yes.
that oversight. Why is this such an important moment, do you think, for whichever direction this goes? Because it could be interesting either way, and I'm sure it's not going to be in a stasis. It's going to keep evolving, the story, I would imagine. But what is the precedent here that you are seeing possibly coming out now?
Well, the original idea, the one that was sold to us, certainly in the states of the nation, and I say multiple states of the nation because it kept coming up until it finally happened, is that Eskom was going to be broken up into these 3 units. And one of the units would be in charge of the grid. It would be the distribution unit. And the understanding we were given was that that was sacrosanct, that the actual end product of supplying electricity to homes, that would be could be farmed out. Generating electricity, that could be farmed out. But the grid had to be controlled. And Eskom's going into this court bid, saying that that is really, really important, that is critical, because if you've got too many people fiddling with the grid, that's when you could get national blackout. Because there's this weird thing where there's a particular frequency, a number of hertz, that needs to be maintained on the grid. And that's quite a finicky process. So, for example, if there was a blackout and the whole grid went down, it would apparently take about a week. This was under Director explaining to us, to get everything back up to that frequency. So Eskom, the problem with Eskom is every time they face one of these challenges, they tend to be alarmist. Everything is Armageddon. Everything's going to destroy them. So they've kind of undermined themselves for this court case, but they're going in saying you can't take control of the grid away from us because that's what everything depends on. So man, either way, if they lose the case, if Eskom loses the case, then we're looking at some kind of privatized entire electricity infrastructure.
The old Wild West. I have a feeling there's going to be prospectors coming out. You're looking for electricity wherever they can find it. I'm telling you, this is watershed, and I don't think for all the wrong reasons. The fact that we are going through this gateway has to be a good thing, because this is the direction we're going to need to move. We're going to need to figure out how to do this.
Absolutely.
It does beg the question, though, how much autonomy individual municipalities and the people running these municipalities have to be able to set up 25-year deals with energy suppliers at this particular stage of our electricity narrative. But we'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you live in that municipality. How often do you actually have load shedding? We would love to hear from you. There is so much on the go. We're going to continue our chat and cast an international gaze in just a moment. And I'd love to have a quick look at this. If you take a look at this particular story breaking right now. Okay, so this is on the N4, just west of Solomon Mahlangu in Pretoria. The N4 now completely closed both directions. Pylons collapsing. Obviously, Roy isn't on the scene to be able to break it down for us. But live high-voltage wires on the ground right now. It sounds like 3 trucks were involved in that collision. undoubtedly an unsafe area. So that's on the N4 as you head into Pretoria. Please just avoid. There will be massive backups. But if you're anywhere in the area, have any footage or photos, please update us. Please share with us. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to continue with our news chat in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Just tracking all of the headlines are breaking as we move into the brand new week, and we are back looking at some of those major stories that affect us globally and here in South Africa. And Roy Simpson has been helping us unpack all of them, and please, you can join the discussion and share your thoughts and your opinions. Yes, this is a safe place, 063-408-8863. Now, as we had mentioned a little bit earlier, some of our big stories are happening across our borders, but they do still affect us. Now, Al Jazeera recently published a series of very provocative investigative pieces titled Gold Mafia. A few of you listening now, that exposes a money laundering network that allegedly uses smuggled Zimbabwean gold to run the operation. And not a small amount of gold, as I understand it. So unpack this one for us. Explain why this has become such a big story in our little neighbor.
Well, because it involves so much, because it's such a complex network. Effectively, what's happening here is Zim dollars are being washed into legitimate US dollars. But it's a complicated process to get there. We're going to have to just have a caveat that allegedly applies to everything that we're saying.
This is an open case at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is investigative journalism. The I team from AJ have uncovered this and unpacked it. So what is happening is there are these gold mines, which are illicit gold mines. More importantly, there are sanctions on a number of generals, army generals, and high-ranking politicians in Zimbabwe. These people have control of these mines, in some cases quite directly. There are allegations that there are generals who own shares in companies that own mines that aren't necessarily on the up and up. But the point being, there's this gold being mined that can't be sold legitimately because of these sanctions. So this is a sanctions-busting thing. And that's where it starts to get really complicated because, of course, the people who are doing this... And they're running it through Dubai, so they're running it through the UAE as just an aside. So the gold gets taken in, like attaché cases, by someone holding a diplomatic passport for Zimbabwe, doesn't get checked that side, gets sold on the open market that side, the dollars come in, and then someone this side, allegedly for gold leaf tobacco, is issuing false invoices for massive purchases of tobacco, and so the dollars come back in and then they get distributed around. That's the allegation. So it's a money laundering scheme, and of course when you're talking sanctions busting, suddenly you've got the Russians involved and sanctions busting there. So these people at the center of this network are really deeply connected to legitimate power and to the underworld as well.
And to South African banks, perhaps?
Yes, so...
Is there a South African connection or overlap?
There is a specific one. The claim is that Standard Bank, Sasfin, and ABSA are all involved, but not as institutions. No, and not as institutions. Look, Standard Bank's got its skeletons in the closet. It was involved in manipulating the price of precious metals and the price of the rand. But these are individuals in these banks who are being bribed, just outright. They're getting money put into their account, and they're fiddling some of this money through different accounts so that it's difficult to trace.
Terrifying, because it's obviously one of our border nations, and we have to assume that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
So we will watch this space very closely. I've got to ask, though, seeing as electricity has been a common thread this morning in whatever weird way, Tesla...
Yes.
Naughty IT department. What is going on there? Why are people up in arms at this kind of guiding light when it comes to electrical progression?
Well, it's one individual at this stage in California. His name, I think, is Huey Year. And he's started a case which could become a class action case. And this is what it's all about, is that the IT guys at Tesla HQ, apparently, there are these onboard cameras inside Tesla cars. Now, apparently, that feed goes to HQ and gets stored there. And these guys have access to the footage from inside the car. Now, the court case is talking all about, like, when the car's parked, you can see people doing their laundry, and you can see people's children, which, of course, is a major thing.
For sure.
I think it's also about people doing naughty things inside their car. Cars have always had that little cachet of, you know, it's a private space. But these IT guys have been sharing this video footage. So it's a complete invasion of privacy. And I think it's going to become a class action suit. I think everyone who has ever sat in a Tesla is going to join in.
For sure.
So yeah, this could go places, but it speaks to a bigger thing about who controls the information that is centralized in any scenario. So you know, if we drift into that space where China's in, where you have this ubiquitous surveillance, CCTV cameras anywhere, who has access to that? And then when you add things like AI...
who controls it?
Who controls it, and what information could you deduct from who's moving where? So this is a really important case. It's going to be very interesting.
Adulterous husbands, you be sweating. You be sweating right now. So many watershed moments presenting themselves right now. Thank you for helping us unpack and understand how we fit into the grand scheme of things. You can show Roy some love in the real world if you see him. He loves hugs. He absolutely loves hugs. We say thank you so much for joining us on Family Day. You are part of Mi Familia, our family. So thank you for sharing that with us. And please keep your opinions coming. If anything is affecting you here in South Africa, especially 0634088863, drop us a voice note.